After watching these proceedings, there may be an outcry to replace the so-called Ginsburg rule with the Abrams rule. Joining me now for more on that and other issues, our senior legal analyst, Jeffrey Toobin, author of The Nine, Inside the Secret World of the Supreme Court. Jeffrey, you watched the whole thing. She has now retreated from two statements that, amongst others, Senator Schumer said she would not alter in any way. I mean, she has simply just thrown her two most controversial remarks to the wind, hasn't she?
Lou, you know the song, you got to know when to hold and know when to fold. She knew when to fold on this Wise Latina comment. I mean, it is an indefensible comment on its own terms. She explained what she was trying to do. I thought she did a pretty good job of saying, look, this is what I think. I made an inartful attempt back in 2001 when I made the statement, but you know, she did her best.
An inartful statement that she repeated over the course of 9 years, Jeffrey?
Well, I don't know how many times she actually said it. It was several times.
But it was over 9 years.
But it was over several times. I think it was, as she said, a ham-handed attempt to say that Latinas had a place at the table in judicial,
But why is there a separate standard? Because Lindsey Graham, in the midst of what was a rather studied, I don't know what we would call it, plotting hearing today, you know, he said it straightforwardly. His career would be over had he said something similar about white males in the Senate.
Well, you know, I think you put your finger on one of the key issues in all American constitutional law right now, which is the law says you may treat formerly oppressed groups somewhat differently to achieve diversity. You can give black students an advantage in university admissions. You can, under certain circumstances, give black job applicants an advantage. That is increasingly hard to defend. And it is the current state of the law. There is no doubt that there are circumstances where you can give advantages to achieve the goal of affirmative action, but as today illustrated, that's hard to defend.
Hard to defend, and obviously she's been given an exemption by the U.S. Senate. She will be confirmed, and perhaps by a significant margin, including a large number of Republican votes, comparatively large. What will be her impact on the Supreme Court? I mean, we have more people running around from the administration, the Democratic leadership in Congress, and indeed the liberals noteworthy in the legal profession saying this is really a very conservative judge. It makes you wonder, she's so conservative, why in the world would President Obama have appointed her? I mean, the spin is really out of control here, isn't it?
Well, I think the spin is clearly wrong. She's not a conservative judge. She appears to be a moderate liberal judge, very much like David Souter, whom she will be replacing.
All right.
I don't think the balance on the court will shift very much. She appears to be a supporter of abortion rights, of affirmative action, of limits on executive power, much like David Souter.
All right. Jeffrey Toobin, thank you as always.
Okay.
Up next, confirmation hearing today. We'll also be examining her record on issues involving illegal immigration. You may be surprised by some of her rulings. Also, Democrats preparing to investigate the CIA under President Bush and their mission, apparently to kill Osama bin Laden. The Democrats aren't happy about that. Many happy Democrats on Capitol Hill, however, for other reasons.
This is indeed a happy day. Are you happy?
This is a very exciting day.
And I'm delighted.
I almost feel like I'm one of the luckiest people in the world.
We'll tell you why the Democrats felt so excited, so delighted, so happy, so hyperbolic. Joining me now, Ed Whalen, president of the Ethics and Public Policy Center, who says Judge Sotomayor has done a good job of not answering questions. And Nan Aaron, who's president of the Alliance for Justice, who says Judge Sotomayor has been surprisingly forthcoming. Well, thank you both for being with us. Let me turn to you first, if I may, Nan. Forthcoming, she has reversed two of her most controversial statements. Did that surprise you?
Oh, I think she came through with flying colors today. I think she gave very thorough answers to a wide range of questions. She was masterful, and I think in some respects didn't do what some of her predecessors did, Alito and Roberts, which came up with pat phrases. I've no quarrel with this. They evaded answers, avoided them, saying I can't answer because that issue might come up before me. I think
well,
in
she
some
said the same
respects
thing
she
today,
came
though.
up. Oh, but I think, for instance, in the Ritchie case, she could well have said this is a pending litigation. It's going back down to the courts. I really can't answer it. And in fact, I think gave a very extensive response.
What do you think,
it.
Ed?
Well, Lou, she was masquerading as a judicial conservative. You know, you had Senate Democrats yesterday criticizing Chief Justice Roberts for his umpire metaphor, but
I actually remember that vividly.
Yeah, Judge Sotomayor took that one step further, saying all she does is apply the law to the facts. That's it. Nothing further to be said. But what's striking is she did actually repudiate very forcefully President Obama's empathy standard. That was good to hear. But then when Senator Kyle walked her through the statements in her record that caused real concern about whether she has that commitment to impartiality, she denied what those statements plainly mean. Statements that were carefully composed, reiterated over a period of years. So I think she has a lot she's trying to walk away from. And one of the most striking passages was when Senator Schumer got her to claim that she was against the use of foreign international law in construing the Constitution, even though she said exactly the opposite in a speech just a few months ago. Really brazen.
Well,
your reaction?
I'm not sure she really said that. What she did say is that you don't use international law to base your decision. But I would say if you look at her 17 years on the court, at the district court, the Court of Appeals level, you find a very careful, meticulous, thorough, open-minded judge. And I think today her comments really reflected her decision-making on that.
Well, what
point.
about well, her decision apparently not to answer on the Second Amendment? She did precisely as you were suggesting as Judge Roberts, saying, you know, that issue may come before us on the court, and I don't want to go too far into it after a rather extensive discussion with Senator Hatch. I mean, it's hard to understand where she stands on the Second Amendment here. Where does she stand clearly, forthrightly, Nan?
Well, I think, in fact, she helped walk through what the law is on the Second Amendment. And what she did discuss in great detail is the Heller case decided by the Supreme Court recently, in which Justice Scalia specifically leaves open the question as to whether the Second Amendment applies to the states. And that appeared to be the issue in a case she had to decide. And in fact, she said, because Justice Scalia left open that question, I cannot make that determination at this point.
Lou, throughout the day, she was picking and choosing what she would answer in a completely incoherent fashion. Let me give one stark example.
Well, wait a minute, incoherent?
In order to try to show that she had some sort of sympathy for property rights, she cited her work for a law firm in private practice where she represented owners of intellectual property. But then when the topic came to the Puerto Rican Legal Defense and Education Fund, a cause to which she devoted her energies for a dozen years, a cause that the New York Times says she was actively involved in, supervising the litigation, she said, oh, we were primarily fundraisers. You know, just a ridiculous
as a member of the
evasion.
board of directors. You know, I have to conclude this by, again, from last night talking with Floyd Abrams in a face-off debate, much like the one you two were kind enough to participate in tonight. He said that he believes, you know, I'm going to attach this name to it, the Floyd Abrams rule, which is no senator should support or vote for any nominee who does not answer their questions. And that might be a wonderful change. Do you not both agree to the Ginsburg rule?
Well,
it would be
yes
good
or
to get
no,
straight
because we're out
answers.
of time.
Yes, it would be good to get straight answers.
Okay.
We haven't
She
gotten
has
that so
provided
far.
the answers.
Nan, I'm sorry?
I think in this instance, she has been
No, but I mean, do you
forthcoming.
believe it would be a good idea to do what Floyd Abrams suggested?
Well, I think it all depends. But I think in this
I will take,
particular
if you don't want to do
instance-
yes or no, that's certainly one of the great things about this country. It's your right. Thank you both. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks
And
so much.
I'm going to have a few thoughts about this, and I'll